Welcome to the FemiNinja Project. I am your host, Cheryl Ilov, middle-aged ninja hiding in plain sight, dedicated to restoring human dignity one person at a time and helping you unleash your personal power. Discover that it's possible to look like a woman, act like a lady, move like a ninja, and think like a warrior. And remember, men are always welcome on the FemiNinja Project. I have to ask you, what feeds your power? And I do mean that literally. We hear so much about power foods, superfoods, what to eat, and what the best thing is in relationship to health, wellness, weight loss, what to eat, what to avoid, what's going to help us live forever, and what is going to kill us long before it is our time. So I'm asking you to please tell me that I am not the only one who gets confused about nutrition, because the information out there is so confusing, so conflicting, and I just get overwhelmed sometimes. And, I grew up with Mom's apple pie, and I'm here to tell you it was delicious, and I loved every bit of it. But as we were growing up, we simply ate what was considered to be a balanced diet and had 3 meals a day. We had snacks, we had fruit, we had the occasional treat of ice cream, and maybe that Mom's apple pie, as I do tell you, that pie was good. That woman sure could cook, but she really could bake. The woman was a master. But we really didn't think that much about it, and we actually felt like we were pretty healthy. But when I got to college, then things kind of fell apart because I wasn't eating Mom's cooking anymore. I was eating in this horrible gag me cafeteria, and the food was so terrible. I can remember going through the cafeteria line 3 times going, what am I going to eat? There was nothing in the serving area that looked like anybody could eat it. Everything was brown, unless you wanted to eat bread, and of course the bread was nothing but white bread. As a result of all of that, I ended up putting on a lot of weight, and I'm sure that the pizza parties and the beer keg parties really didn't help either, but it was college. That's what you do. So after I moved to Denver, I didn't even know how to cook. I couldn't cook for myself, and I remember my first meal that I did cook. I was so proud of myself because I actually made fish sticks with frozen vegetables and rolls, and I thought that was cooking. But I didn't know any better back then. So as time went on, I had to teach myself about nutrition and about healthy cooking, healthy eating, and everything I learned along the way really was kind of self-taught. But I did do an awful lot of research off and on over the years, and it just depended on what was interesting to me at the time or what I was going through. If I just was gaining a lot of weight, I would throw up my hands and say, well, I guess I'm supposed to do this right now. And then eventually when I had the energy, I would turn my focus around and really explore what I needed to do to have more of a healthy diet. And it really came to the forefront when I was probably going through perimenopause and was having a significant amount of not only health issues, but a lot of other things along the way. And I decided that it was time to really take this idea that food could be medicine very seriously. And I spent an incredible amount of time looking into nutrition, looking into calorie counts, healthy calories, empty calories. I would start reading labels when I went to the grocery store. I really put a lot into it. But life is way too short just to concentrate on eating nothing but kale, the kale-only diet, or looking at things that, I can't have that ice cream cone, or I can't have that piece of cake. Of course you can. Life is way too short to deny yourself the simple things of life. And everything in moderation is probably the best rule of thumb, I think, to follow. And what we do choose to eat, like everything else, is our choice. And we are adults. We can make the decisions for ourselves, right? And what I really do not appreciate is when somebody stands there and tries to shame me for a personal choice that I might make, a decision to eat something that really isn't that great for me. I don't know. I really like sometimes having a piece of pepperoni pizza, maybe 2 or 3, but that's my decision. And again, I don't really appreciate the food police or the nutritional police. And that's kind of what inspired today's subject, is something that happened to me not that long ago at a health fair that I attended. I was one of the presenters. I had a booth there, and I always, when I'm doing a presentation or a speech or any kind of public appearance, I always have a little basket of really good dark chocolate at my table, because it does a couple of things. Number one, it really attracts people to my table, and once they take my chocolate, they have to talk to me, and it's something that makes me smile just when I can see my chocolate, and it actually sustains me during the day. And I happen to like dark chocolate. I didn't always like dark chocolate. It wasn't until I was in my 50s, I think it was my early 50s, and going through my Feldenkrais training, that I finally learned how to like dark chocolate. Prior to that, I really didn't eat chocolate very much. It never really appealed to me. And dark chocolate, it just made me gag to think about it, because it was just so bitter. But then all of a sudden, halfway through my Feldenkrais training, we always had dark chocolate at a training, and my classmates convinced me to just give it a try, and I swear it was like heaven on my tongue. It was delicious. And from that moment on, not only was I really into dark chocolate, I became a dark chocolate snob. But anyway, I was presenting at this health fair, and I was setting up my booth, my table, and, arranging everything really nice and pretty. And I had my dark chocolate, my basket right in the front so people would see it, and I could smell it already. It smelled so darn good. And of course, true to form, I was way early, so I sat back and enjoyed watching all the other presenters, the vendors coming in and setting up their tables, and I was just sitting there enjoying it. And one woman was walking in with the coordinator of the event, and she was dragging a cart behind her with all of her supplies. And as she walked past my table, I looked up at her and I gave her a great big beautiful smile, and I said, "Good morning." And she looked at my basket of dark chocolate and said, "Candy at a health fair. That hardly seems appropriate." Well, good morning to you too. And she walked past me, and guess what? Her table was just catty-corner to mine. So as she was setting up her table, she reached into her case and started pulling out all kinds of fresh produce. She had bok choy, she had broccoli, she had spinach, she had a few things that I couldn't identify if my life depended on it, and she pulled out bunches and bunches and bunches of kale. So there she was, arranging her kale and her bok choy, and I just kept glancing at her, just trying to figure out exactly what it was that she was promoting. And every time she would catch my eye, I would glance at her and give her another big smile, and she would look pointedly at my basket of chocolate and give a big frown and scowl. And that went on for the entire day, and it was just really weird, because it was really obvious that she did not approve of me having dark chocolate. Well, a lot of the other vendors there had things that were much worse and not nearly as high quality as my nice dark chocolate, but because I suppose she was so close to me, I was the one that was getting the stink eye all day. But it was so funny, because I had so many people coming to my table. We had wonderful conversations. I met a lot of fabulous people, and I had to keep on replenishing my basket of dark chocolate. And eventually I ran out of chocolate, and she never did run out of kale. And I have to admit, at one point, I really kind of felt bad for her, because she just didn't seem like she was a happy person. She didn't appear like she was having fun, and she really just didn't seem like she was very happy. And I really believe that maybe just a small piece of chocolate, just one little piece, would have boosted her spirits just a little bit, because I do believe that you can have your kale and chocolate too. Just maybe not both at the same time. But it prompted me to do a comparison. I was really curious about the health benefits of kale compared to the health benefits of chocolate, because of course you've been hearing a lot about the health benefits of chocolate. All of a sudden now it's good for us, where it's like everything else. Eggs used to be horrible, they used to be the devil, and now all of a sudden eggs are good for us again. And coffee used to be good for us, and then it was Satan in a glass because it was going to kill us, and now all of a sudden coffee's good for us again. So who who knows? I mean, the information is always changing. But with kale, I think that's pretty much been a staple. That's pretty stable. Everybody knows that kale is good for you and always has been, because anything that looks like kale, smells like kale, and tastes like kale has got to be good for you. You don't walk into a room and say, wow, kale, we're having kale for dinner. And it's not to knock it. It's a wonderful vegetable, but I prefer my kale disguised, maybe with a little bit of chocolate sauce, but that's not the point. So I wanted to do a comparison of the nutritional value, the benefits, and the health benefits of kale, as well as the health benefits of dark chocolate. So I wanted to see how the two of them compared. So I found a tremendous amount of information as I was researching it, and I tried to condense it as much as possible because there was a tremendous amount of information, and I didn't want to overwhelm you, but I found it was really interesting, and I wanted to highlight some of the key points. So we're going to start with kale first, because kale is king according to health benefits, and you know what? It really is. So I've got 10 listed here that I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to try and highlight why it is so beneficial. So the first one is that eating kale can improve your vision because of the high levels of lutein, which is responsible for preventing eye problems, including cataracts and macular degeneration. So I thought that was pretty good. And by the way, there are also high levels of lutein in kiwi, grapes, spinach, orange juice, and yellow carrots. Number 2, it decreases inflammation. The anti-inflammatory effects are on the entire body, even though there is no scientific study that has proven this theory. So you might want to keep that in mind. However, it has been determined that just 100 calories of kale, and that's pretty much a lot of kale, but just 100 calories provides over 350 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids, which is higher than any anti-inflammatory medication on the market. And that is according to this study that I read, according to my source. And kale also has high levels of vitamin K, higher than any other food. And vitamin K helps in blood clotting, bone metabolism, and regulation of blood calcium levels. The combined effect of the vitamin K and the omega-3 fatty acids make it the McDaddy of decreasing chronic inflammation and similar health issues, which made me wonder about autoimmune disorders, but I couldn't find anything regarding that in my research. But I thought it would be something really interesting to pursue, since autoimmune disorders seem to be epidemic right now in the United States. Number 3, and this is a biggie, cancer prevention. It's because kale contains something called glucosinolates, and kale contains at least 5 of them, and they stimulate the body's own natural antioxidant systems. It helps your body repair cells that are damaged by free radicals, and yep, the body does have an incredible ability to heal itself as long as we provide the correct environment and the right conditions for it to do so and for it to take over to heal itself. And by the way, the glucosinolates are present in all other cruciferous vegetables as well, including mustard and horseradish. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And this is also important in the prevention of colon, breast, ovarian, bladder, and prostate cancer. And that does have scientific confirmation. So at this point, I'm ready to go and make myself a great big kale salad. So another one, number 4 benefit of kale is cardiovascular support. It prevents arteriosclerosis related to the anti-inflammatory effects, which is a contributing factor to plaque building up in the arteries. However, there is no specific study to back this up, but considering what I've learned so far, I'm not going to poo-poo it. Number 5 is detoxification, because kale contains something called isothiocyanates, which is related to the glucosinolates, and they do work together to help stop carcinogens dead in their tracks by not allowing the carcinogens to be accepted by the body. And number 2, by counteracting the poisonous effects of carcinogens that have already been activated in the body. And number 3, it speeds up the removal of the carcinogens from the body. Wow, huh? I think this is information that everybody should know. Maybe not know the big fancy names of all these phytochemicals, but just to know that kale can do that. All of a sudden, the smell of kale is a little bit more palatable for me. So number 6 is brain development, because kale contains folate, which, as we all know, is crucial for early child development. So if you are preggers, you might want to boost up your kale intake. Number 7 is bone repair and enhancement, because kale contains calcium, vitamin C, and vitamin K, and the combined effect of all three makes bones stronger and helps them heal faster if you do have a fracture. I think that's something, I didn't see any information on osteoporosis regarding that, but that's something for me to look into. Very interesting. And number 8 is it decreases fatigue, because the iron content in kale helps increase oxygen transport and delivery to the tissues, resulting in increased energy levels. Number 9, improve your skin. I like that one too. So the high levels of vitamin A in kale is good for your skin. As we all know, you can find it in a lot of beauty products, and as well as supplementation that is touting the effects of vitamin A for beautiful skin. Number 10, kale boosts your immune system because of the high levels of vitamin C. So I find all of this information incredibly compelling, and I wanted to see what the health benefits then were of chocolate, because I didn't think anything could possibly hold a candle to kale. So this is what I found with chocolate, which is really fascinating. So dark chocolate, let me clarify, is very nutritious as long as it has a high cocoa content, and at least at a level of 60%. It is a little bit bitter, but you know what? I love the taste of dark chocolate. And yes, it is a little bit bitter, but it really has a relatively low sugar content, which is another perk, because sugar is something that can really jack up the inflammation in the body, blood sugar levels, and is so detrimental to our health that a lot of health experts consider sugar to be the number one hazard to our health. But back to the fun stuff and the benefits of dark chocolate. It is rich in fiber, which really came as a big shock to me. It is also very high in iron, magnesium, copper, and manganese, just to name a few. Number 2, it is very high in antioxidants. Cocoa beans are one of the best foods for antioxidant properties. They include polyphenols, flavonols, and catechins. And what these phytochemicals do is that they fight cancer cells, they fight free radicals, and they decrease the appearance of aging, so pass that chocolate bar around. They can reverse inflammation. They protect our cardiovascular system. They promote brain health and can prevent dementia in the elderly. And I did see one study that suggested that 2 cups of hot chocolate given to people who already had some form of dementia or Alzheimer's can actually reverse it, because of the hot chocolate's ability to increase the blood flow in certain parts of the person's brain. And I thought that was pretty exciting news too, especially since it tastes so good and there are no potential side effects. So the other thing that these phytochemicals can do, it supports normal blood sugar levels, promotes normal blood pressure. It raises the levels of good cholesterol in our blood, the HDL, and lowers the bad cholesterol, the LDL. So these are just some of the benefits of dark chocolate. And as you can see, a lot of them are very similar, almost the same as the benefits of kale. So yes, indeed, you can have your kale and your chocolate too. But the other thing, one other benefit of dark chocolate that I just think is really fascinating is that it can decrease depression. It's a mood elevator. And I can see that because just looking at a piece of dark chocolate makes me feel a whole lot better. And that's why I keep going back to that woman at the health fair who just didn't look happy. She just didn't look like she was having a good time. And I thought maybe if she would have just one little piece of chocolate, she might feel better and it might lift her mood a little bit. There is so much more information out there regarding all of this. And I encourage you to do your own research, your own homework, and see what does work for you and see what resonates with you and what fits fits with you, because our diet and what we eat, what we choose to eat, is such a personal choice. And nobody should lecture us into what we should eat or what is good for us or what is bad for us. And nobody has the right to pass judgment on us for what we do choose to eat, like the woman did at that health fair, because not only was she passing judgment on me, which is just fine, I don't really care, but she was passing judgment on every single person who came to my table and took a piece of chocolate. Chocolate is not the devil. It's not going to kill you, but everything in moderation is the point. I remember I have found myself over the years, the course of my exploration and my journey, is I found myself going down the rabbit hole of nutritional hell more than once. And as I slid down that rabbit hole, and after the rabbit smacked me upside down the head a couple of times and spit me back out, I finally figured that it was time to take charge, and that's why I spent a lot of time researching it and experimenting over the years. I am not an expert on this subject, but I do know a lot, and I do know what works for me, but it's something I have to keep revisiting because things do change. We are a dynamic system. We're people. We're not machines. We're not robots. And, sometimes you might need some help. You might need to go to somebody to get a little bit of advice, and that's great. We all need help sometimes. We all need to have a coach or somebody who can clear up some of the confusion, because it does get so incredibly confusing, especially when it comes to things like health, wellness, fitness, weight loss. And if you don't believe me about how confusing it is, go to your local Barnes & Nobles and look at the aisle on nutrition and fitness, and then even the cookbooks. Of course, the cookbooks I like because they're really interesting. There are a lot of really great cookbooks out there that do specialize in low-calorie, healthy type of cooking and food preparation that can give you some really awesome ideas. And I have a pantry that is full of cookbooks. I just absolutely love looking at them. Sometimes when I'm just kind of feeling down or blue or just need a pick-me-up, I'll grab one of my cookbooks and just look at the pictures. And it also then starts stimulating that creative sense of, ooh, I can try this in the kitchen, because sometimes it just gets to be kind of a drag and really kind of boring. I don't know about you, but I certainly have a tendency to run out of ideas, and I really need to have my imagination or my creative sense, even in cooking, be stimulated a little bit, and just picking up one of my cookbooks does it. And I wanted to give a plug for a book that I found several years ago, and this book is absolutely fantastic. If you are trying to lose weight, you want to lose weight, or just want to get an idea of what calorie counts are in certain foods, because a lot of times what we think is healthy or we think is good for us really isn't, or we think, oh, this doesn't have that many calories, and you might be surprised. So the title of the book is Picture Perfect Weight Loss, and the author is Dr. Howard M. Shapiro. The book was actually published in 2000, and I still refer back to it very often. When I still had my physical therapy practice, I also shared it with a lot of my clients, and many of them got the book and they absolutely raved over it. And what Dr. Shapiro does is he actually uses beautiful graphic color pictures that show one page of food, of what you can have for so many calories, and then on the next page he shows you what other options you could have. So it's comparing high calorie, high density, low nutritional foods with ones that are just delicious looking. They're action packed as far as power, as far as nutritional value. And he does this in a way that is so non-judgmental. And that's one of the things that I really love about him. He teaches something that he calls, the acronym is FAT. So I really don't like that because of what it implies. But what he's doing is he's teaching something called food awareness training. So basically he is teaching you awareness. And of course, you know how much I love self-awareness. And sometimes the things that we do eat, we really don't even think about. It's just a habit or mindless eating, and we're really not even paying attention to what we're doing at the time. And that's what I really love about him. He also takes away the judgment, and he also encourages, look, if you want to have something that is, high calorie, nothing is a no-no. You can have whatever you want. You just have to be sensible about it and don't feel guilty about about it when you do. He even encourages people to plan if they want to have a binge or if they want to go out for, a dinner or something, to plan it. And again, he's taking away the judgment, he's taking away the guilt. And if you're going to eat something that you think is forbidden fruit and you're really guilty about it, well, then that's a double whammy. You're beating yourself up for eating it, so you're not really enjoying it, and then you're feeling guilty about it, and what's the point? Life is way too short. When I had my office, I had two delightful women that came to me, and they were doing Pilates conditioning in a semi-private, so it was just the two of them. And after about 2 months of being with me doing Pilates, they complained to me that they were gaining weight. So I said, well, it's possible that you are, the scale is saying that, but what you're doing is that you're building muscle. Muscle weighs more than fat, and when you do build muscle, that's actually going to increase your metabolism, so eventually, you could lose a few pounds if you want to. That made sense to them, but then a few weeks later, they came in and they said, oh, no, they were still gaining weight. And the bizarre thing is they were both gaining weight, both at the same time and at the same rate. And I thought that was really bizarre. So I tried to, figure out, okay, what's going on? And have you changed your diet in any way? No. Are you doing, what are you eating? And they assured me they were both eating a healthy diet. And I was racking my brain. I went through everything I could possibly think of. And finally they said, well, we do get together every day, every afternoon for coffee. It was their girlfriend time that they would get together and have some one-on-one. And, it was a really bonding experience. And I said, well, coffee shouldn't do that unless you're using a whole lot of cream and sugar in your coffee, that shouldn't cause you to gain weight. And this was back way before the advent of the double, triple mocha lattes that they serve now with all this whipped cream on top. It was just plain coffee. Finally, they admitted that the place that they went to for their coffee was a shop that specialized in pie. And they had pie with their coffee. And I said, a slice of pie every now and again isn't going to hurt you. That shouldn't be a problem. And then they admitted that, no, they did have the pie every day, and they shared an entire pie with their coffee every single day. And I went, well, that kind of explains the weight gain then. So I made several suggestions, including, look, instead of having the pie, maybe you can just share a tiny slice of pie. If you absolutely have to have it, don't have it every day. Maybe if it's too tempting, go to each other's houses for coffee instead of going to that shop. And I came up with a couple of other ideas. Maybe go for a walk in the park for their girlfriend time. And every single suggestion I made, they absolutely said, nope, not going to work. Nope, not going to work. Nope, nope. And finally, I just looked at them and I said, well, then stop complaining and eat the pie. And they looked at me like I was out of my mind. And I thought, oh boy, I just lost 2 clients and I really made them mad, but I couldn't help myself. I didn't know what else to tell them. And I said, look, you really want the pie. You enjoy the pie. And you obviously, that's more important to you right now than what your weight is. So stop beating yourself up over it. Just enjoy the pie and stop being guilty about it, because you're not enjoying either one. And what is the point? So, I figured I was never going to see them again, but they did come back. They kept coming to me. And about a month later, I noticed that they both were losing a little bit of weight, and I didn't really want to open that can of worms again, and I didn't want to say anything. But finally I did, and I said, it looks like you're both losing weight. And they said, yes, they were. And they were very happy about it, and they were very proud of it. So I asked them what changed. And they said that when I told them that, I actually gave them permission to eat the pie. It was no longer forbidden fruit. And once I gave them permission to eat it and that it wasn't a bad thing to do, all of a sudden it lost its appeal and they just stopped having pie with their coffee. So, wow, I guess that's reverse psychology. I don't know, but it worked for them. So the point is, if you're going to have your pie, eat the pie, love the pie, enjoy it, and don't feel guilty about it. So that's pretty much the take-home point. It's the same thing with your chocolate. It's just finding balance, having sense, and common sense is really what it's all about. And we have a tendency to make things just so darn complicated, and it doesn't help when we get bombarded by information, by the media, by the fitness industry. It just gets so darn confusing. I had another client one time who started doing spin classes 3 times times a week. And she was gaining weight and she just couldn't understand it. And she had stopped seeing me. She had seen me for a back injury. And she came back a few months later and I could tell she really had gained weight. And she says, I don't know what's going on because I'm doing these spin classes 3 times a week. And, it's just I'm working really hard and everything. So again, you've got to put on your little detective hat and say, what else is going on here? Because something is going on. So basically what she told me after we dug deeper into what was going on and what her routine was when she went to the gym and she did her spin class was that her instructor was really promoting the health bars and health drinks after their workout so they could replenish and supplement whatever they lost during their workout because it was really healthy for them and they needed the electrolytes and all the other good stuff that was in the health bars and the health drinks. So I had her bring in one of the bars and one of the bottles so we could look at the label, and the sugar content in those things was off the chart and the calorie content. And I looked at her and I said, no wonder you are actually taking in more calories after your class than you're burning during your class. It's something called a hidden saboteur, that what Dr. Shapiro calls them. Things that we think are good for us and they really aren't. We are actually sabotaging our efforts to be fit and healthy. So really, really, I encourage you, if you do nothing else, do read labels. It's so important. You'd be shocked to find out how much hidden sugar is in a lot of the products that we just use every single day. And that is really undermining our health, our wellness, as well as our fitness, and even our emotional self, because, that makes us sluggish. It can really do a number on our emotional status, how we feel about ourselves. And it can be actually a factor in depression, which is something I'm going to put down on my list to look into a little bit more deeply. So in closing, I just wanted to remind you to be kind to yourself, not to pass judgment on yourself, not to listen to other people or be swept away by the crowd or the fad of the week or whatever it is. You are your own best expert. Do your homework, discover what works best for you, and do it in a playful spirit with a sense of interest and curiosity, not stress or having to figure it out, because we're all works in progress. We're all figuring things out for ourselves, and we are our best experts. Do seek help if you need to, but remember, you know what works for you, and don't let anybody shame you into eating something that you don't want because they think it's good for you. You know what's best, and now you know that it is possible to have your kale and your chocolate too. So taking charge of your life, living well, and looking good is the way of the FemiNinja. And that's a wrap on another episode of the FemiNinja Project. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, be safe, be strong, and until next time, bye now.